on First Tuesday.
There's more in him. There's certainly some life in him, as you can hear.
Leaving home. For Stephen, handicapped from birth, the chance of a new life in a new home. And leaving home again, refugees from El Salvador are smuggled out to the United States.
These people are in danger of being tortured, killed, raped, maimed. That's what they're facing every day.
Good evening and welcome to the June edition of First Tuesday. Tonight we've got two contrasting films on subjects which may seem quite remote from each other, but which do reflect a common theme: sanctuary.
When it comes to the difficulties of the handicapped, it's not always possible to be optimistic. But in many respects, our film is just that. It's the story of an experimental center where the staff set a daily example of what can be done when the resources and commitment are great enough. Most importantly, A Place for Stephen is about one boy's struggle to succeed there.
Go on, astronaut. Higher, higher.
Stephen Brown is 17. He's a victim of rubella, better known as German measles.
Go on, scamp.
Since his divorce 4 years ago, his father Norman has brought Stephen up single-handed.
Yeah, hold on.
His former wife caught this normally innocuous disease when she was pregnant. The result was devastating.
How are we doing? Come on, concentrate. I tend to see the major handicapping factor as deafness. He's profoundly deaf. He can only hear very loud, very low frequencies. But he can't hear any of the higher frequencies, and that means no speech, because he can't hear the consonants, you know, the T's and S's. Just don't register. He's partially sighted now because with the removal of the cataracts, he's learnt to use his eyes very well. Nobody's quite certain how much he can see. The heart defect, that was really a valve that should have closed up and does naturally with most youngsters before birth and didn't. That's been done now and made a dramatic transformation. And then the brain damage, which is a real puzzle because it's not an overall mental retardation. With the rubella youngsters, it seems as if certain parts of the brain are damaged and others are perfectly normal. And so in some ways he's much quicker and brighter than I am. And in other ways, seems as thick as two short planks. Where have you gone? Come in.
Now Stephen is getting ready for a 3-month trial at a unit specialising in rubella handicapped youngsters.
It's hard work, isn't it?
You know what's happening? No? You got a pen?
No. Let's run through. Shoes, yes. Dressing gown. Won't get up at the moment because he'll think he's going to bed. Oh, I know. Get shoes. Get shoes. Shoes. Yeah, I'm good. Lovely enough.
Hey, shoes.
Get your shoes. Go on. No? He's gone as far as he can with normal school education, as it is in the deafblind units that exist. And he's going on to an experimental, if you like, unit that is attempting to do new things and open out the world for deafblind young adults, not really knowing how far he can go. But I'm convinced that there's more in him. There's certainly some life in him, as you can hear. And I'm very much hoping and praying that market deeping will open that out. In the back or the front?
In the back, I think.
In the back, right. Oh. You've got to build his strength up so next time he can carry his case.
Are you going in the back with him, Norman, or do you want to go in the front?
He should be happy there. Good.
Okay, nice friend of friends.
The National Association for Deaf, Blind and Rubella Handicapped opened the Manor House at Market Deeping near Peterborough 3 years ago. It's one of only 2 residential homes in Britain specialising in the acute deprivation of the senses caused by German measles handicap.
Come on, Stephen. Be careful with the steps. Come on. Right, come on.
Hundreds of children need the intensive care available here, but the Manor House has only 14 beds. Stephen is more severely handicapped than most of the other residents, so no one knows how he will cope. If he fails, his future will be bleak.
This is your bedroom. Yours. Yes, Susan. That's yours. And that.
I even got an S on.
Yes.
Look.
All ready for him.
You got an S on. For you. Isn't that good? I tell you what, we'll put your books in here and then you'll know. He got these for the journey up, so he's expecting great things.
An effective vaccine became available 14 years ago, but more than 1 out of every 8 schoolgirls fails to take it. The result? 200 children a year are born handicapped, and 500 in an epidemic year like 1984. They become imprisoned in a strange, silent world of their own. Emotional farewells can be disruptive. So Norman slips quietly away.
Stephen, pyjamas, look, underneath. Put it back. Good boy. Fine. Stephen. Stephen. Look, see. Pressing down.
Manor House aims to open up the profoundly isolated world of rubella handicapped youngsters by teaching them to communicate.
Squeeze it. Good boy. Stephen, look, look, under here. First. Look, good boy, under there. That's it. You don't get away with that. Come on. Come on. Look what you're doing. That's good. Look. Here. Nose. Look, Stephen. Look. That's it.
Physical education is part of the daily routine. The aim is to improve self-confidence and understanding of how their own bodies move.
Take him in the gym.
Just leave him there. You go over. Good boy, thank you. Come on. Hurry. That's good. Well done. That's a good boy. That's a good boy. That's a good boy. Come on. That's a good boy, okay? That's a good boy. Well done. Good boy. We've already had Stephen for a day or so. We're starting to sort of get some experiences of what he's like. And I think we're using this meeting this morning to, well, decide what really we're going to do with Stephen over the next period of time. You've had some experience of him already. I think we're going to have to start with personal hygiene, aren't we, Ellie, first of all? We noticed this morning he's not really able completely to bath himself without help, is he? No. But a thing that's also stuck out very much this morning is that you need to get his attention before he'll learn anything, because he'll flick his head and wander away from you, and you know, he won't really concentrate on what you're trying to teach him.
Very interesting this morning, I heard Gillian went up to him sort of during breakfast. She gave him a really lovely cuddle. And although after a while he was getting a bit fed up with it, you know, was trying to push her away, but you know, he allowed it to carry on. And
yes. As soon as I woke him up this morning, he looked round, and you could see the look immediately, you know, where am I? Yeah. So we took everything very gently. Yes. Because he wasn't just physically feeling his way. Yeah. He's mentally feeling his way. You just got that about him. He was, you know, how's this for? Am I here for a week? You know, why am I here? It was all ticking away there. So we just took everything, let him take everything in. When Janet first came to us, she needed to be looked after all the time. Now the role's reversed with Janet. Janet likes to mother. She likes to take care. She's a super little girl. Janet's biggest drawback at the moment is her eyesight. She's formed 2 little cataracts that are holding her back, and she's lost some of her bounce. Karen, she's as bright as a button. She's come on so much. She wants to communicate so much. She could run her own life, Karen. She works things out. She's got a very sharp mind. When you consider her handicaps, it's unbelievable really what she can do.
Okay, everything on? Look, Karen, look. Have a little bit. Just a little, okay? Right. See you later. Yes, you must clean it, because look at that. Who did that? David. David. You told David? Yeah. Not you? No, David. Yeah, thought it might be. Yeah. Okay, I'll see you later.
I love them all, and I think we're so concerned with them all in different ways. There are different ways of looking at success. Karen, at the top end of our scale, so to speak, is successful. She has acquired a signing vocabulary, which is terrific. Yet I look down at the bottom end of the range, the more severely mentally handicapped youngsters, and to see them beginning to develop communication skills, beginning to develop personal skills, this is equally exciting.
Marcia was very, very multiply handicapped. She was completely blind and deaf. She couldn't even dress herself when she came here. And I did Marcia's dressing programme, among other things, with her. And we started with, it would take her literally till 12 o'clock from 8 o'clock in the morning to get dressed by leaving her to her own devices. And it took nearly 2 years for that little girl to dress herself. But when she did, I mean, that was magic, because she came down those stairs. I was standing in the hall, and down she came. She got her little sandals on the wrong feet, and the heel on one sock was round the front. Her petticoat was up and tucked in the back of her skirt, so you could see all her little pants. But she was so pleased with herself, and she just looked, her little eyes were wide open, as if, look, here I am, look what I've done. And that, well, I just done that, I cried. Silly. But I did. Yeah, it was lovely.
Back in Brixton, Norman and his daughter Kathy are enjoying a break from the heavy responsibility of looking after Stephen.
I'm a great lover of freedom and getting out and doing things, and you know, I must be doing something, creating something to feel happy. And I found myself increasingly had to give that all away and slow down and just concentrate on the main responsibility and the job in hand. So that, especially over the last few years, yes, I've felt as if life has been slowly closing in on me. And the danger is when you iron out the lows, you also iron out the highs. And you find life comes down to a very narrow band of existence. And I used to look upon it on those terms. It was a marathon. And you deliberately get rid of hope, because by getting rid of hope, you also get rid of the possibility of hurt and disappointment. And you just set your sights on a particular time when maybe you'll be free.
Would you like tea in bed? Yes? Okay, love. Hi, Stevie. Steve, want some tea? Some tea? Yes. In bed? Okay, sunshine. Lovely. Now, sugar? 2. David, 2, please. 2 for Paul. Sit up. Up. Look. Good lad. That's it. Good boy. Hand on your handle. It's going to go all over the bed. Come here. That hand. Okay? Good boy.
When I first met Paul, he'd spent some time in a subnormality hospital, but he wasn't subnormality material, so to speak. He obviously had great gifts, although he lacked really a means of communication. Having brought Paul here, we've given him this means of communication. He's grown up an awful lot. His ability to be almost quite normal and function quite normally in his own home setting. Certainly led one to say, gosh, here's a young man who oughtn't to be placed in such a setting, who ought to have the opportunity. I mean, it just sort of came out at you. And hence, Paul was one of our first residents to set up shop here.
Now Paul is successfully gaining work experience on a farm, but attempts to find him somewhere to work and live permanently have been unsuccessful. He may even be forced back into the profoundly unsuitable world of a mental handicap hospital.
If nothing is found for him and fees are no longer available and monies, well, then he could well return to some sort of caring situation. Could be a hospital, could be a hostel for the mentally handicapped.
I do worry about Paul because we've shown him so much and we know what he enjoys. Now, we've got to be able to offer him something, haven't we? Or really, what we've done's cruel, isn't it? Because we've opened his eyes to something that we can't give him, and that's wrong. And I feel that he's so much to offer. He really has. And he gives so much of himself.
The acute problems Paul now faces are a long way off for Stephen, but he's slowly settling down.
I couldn't have asked for a better start, and I'm delighted. Quite what he makes of it, not sure. Wondered whether he would think it was a holiday when he first went. And they did say that on the Saturday, after 2 weeks, he came down to breakfast as normal, and they suddenly noticed he was sitting there and then tears running down his face, you know. Didn't create a fuss, and later in the day he was his cheerful self again. But one wonders whether it was dawning on him that 2 weeks had gone by and he wasn't home, and perhaps it wasn't a holiday after all.
That's a good lad. Come on. Sit down. That's a good boy. That's a good boy. Put your chair under. Come on. That's a good boy. Look. Plate. No. Finger up there. That's a good boy. That's plate. Look. It's plate. Plate. Look. Plate. It's a good boy. Good boy, Stephen. Shoe. That's a good boy. That's good. That's shoe.
Good boy.
That's a good boy. That's fork. That's good.
No, not the paddy, not yet. The water first.
Knife. No. One finger. That's a good boy. That's the knife.
Water. That's it. Right, come on.
Give me the plate. The plate, please. The plate, please. Go on. Give me the plate. That's a very good boy.
Stephen, look. Cheese. Cheese. Stephen, look. Cheese. Come on, you do it.
Look. Knife. Good boy.
Good. Come on.
That's it. Now the bed. Thank you.
Good boy, Stephen.
I'm very proud of him, actually. When I think that he's a child to whom things happen, whom you cannot forewarn and you can't explain things to, and he's taken places and left there, you know, he doesn't know it's school and great chances. Well, I think he's come through that, being affectionate and affable and amenable and pleasant. I think that's tremendous. When he's happy, in a sense, the world is happy, isn't it? Because we can cope. When he's sad, if he's really distressed and cries, then I'm torn apart, you know, because I don't know what it is. I've got to guess it and put it right, and it could be anything from a remembered memory, you know, to a fear of the future, or something physically wrong. I get distraught then.
Stephen's 3-month trial is over. Today his dad is arriving.
Is it all funny? Eh? All funny.
If he doesn't get in at Manor House, he's not going to be dumped somewhere else just to let me free. And if necessary, I will go on the dole and look after him until I find somewhere else. But I am going to find somewhere else, because I know that in the long run, for Stephen to be locked up with his dad in a flat in Brixton is no good for him and no good for me. I want to find a little world or part of the world where he can be as independent as possible.
A little bit for Dad.
For parents, visiting in the early months can be disruptive. So this is the first time Stephen has seen his dad for 3 months. It's a difficult moment for both of them.
Hi. Hello. How are you doing? I thought you said I'm busy. Well, you're too busy. Are you too busy?
Who is it, Stephen?
You're too busy. Didn't know this fella. Gonna abscond with me. It's a bit much taken, isn't it? What do you reckon? All right. Dad's appearing out of the blue, is it? Not sure. Not sure about. All right. Go on, I'll stand and watch you. I'd just love to know what's going on in his head, yes, how he's sorting it all out. Yeah, no, he's just shows it's working. He's growing up and growing away, you know, as really you want all youngsters to, don't you? And, come and take me. Where are we going? Oh, you take me. Go on.
Stephen, going to the house.
Put your head up then. Smile, eh? To the house for tea. There. Come on then, you show me where we go. Charging down, eh? Charging for tea. I'm delighted that he is now growing up and becoming his own boy, and he's worried that I'm going to take him away. That's lovely. But it is very strange the first time when you meet your son and he appears to back away from you. So mixed feelings, but on the whole, I'm thrilled inside. Because when you have children, you like to see them grow up and become independent youngsters. One of the terrible things to adjust to with a handicapped youngster like Stephen is that he won't grow up and become independent. So any signs of him doing so is thrilling.
Did you find it a bit hurtful, though, in a way?
For a moment, yes, for a moment. You think, you know, you don't react to me like that. I'm your dad, I love you. But on the other hand, it is good. You know it's good. And that comes sweeping in the other way. And so overall, very happy.
We'd like to have Stephen stay with us for a period of 12 months. And I hope you're happy about that.
I'm delighted, over the moon, yes.
I think it's right for us to really assess him carefully, and at that point in time say, look here, well, we really feel we are wasting time, or no, we feel there is something there in the course for Stephen.
That was the great fear, I suppose, because I knew he was happy. I was convinced it was the right place for him. But at the same time, I knew that you'd got to see more than his happiness. You'd got to see potential, really, to justify offering him a place. Yeah. So that was the great unspoken fear at the back, that you had to see the potential. And hope, you know, from what you say, hope rises again, and we go on another 12 months.
I can't actually say how independent he'll become. I feel sure that he could perhaps make some steps towards independence.
Can you see? Past the trees? Can you see it all? It's all different. Still get used to us, won't you? Still get used to us.
Well, Stephen Brown is still doing well at Manor House. And since the film was completed, his father Norman has given up his supply teaching job in order to work full-time with rubella handicapped youngsters. But perhaps it's important to remember that rubella handicap is now entirely preventable, and a campaign is currently underway to ensure that teenage schoolgirls and young women are vaccinated against German measles.
And now our other item of leaving home. In the American Civil War, black slaves were helped to escape into freedom by white sympathizers through a network known as the Underground Railroad. Over a century later, Americans opposed to President Reagan's policy in Central America are using a new underground railroad to smuggle refugees from the Civil War in El Salvador to sanctuary in the United States. The movement began 2 years ago, and now some 100 churches are involved in a network that offers safe houses for refugees fleeing the death squads. But the United States has begun a crackdown to stem the tide of refugees into America and to deter any more churches from getting involved. In a step which tests one of the cardinal principles of political asylum, police last April arrested a priest from Texas for, as it's put, harboring illegal aliens. And last month, in the first case of its kind, a Catholic lay worker was convicted for transporting illegal aliens. She's awaiting sentence and could face up to 15 years in jail. So an escape from El Salvador is not without peril for everyone involved. A safe house follows one family in flight from that conflict, and a decision by a church in Wisconsin who helped them to escape.
This is an important day for us. Following the service this morning, we will decide as a congregation whether or not to provide visible sanctuary to refugees from El Salvador or Guatemala. Right now, there are thousands of people who are tired of being shot at, having family members threatened, raped, or killed, people who basically want a safe place, sanctuary.
Señor, que pongas tu mano poderosa y que no siga pasando nada, Señor, aleluya. Ay, Señor del cielo, ayúdame.
It is a long way from Wisconsin to the countryside of El Salvador, where over 35,000 civilians have died in the past 3 years, victims of civil war and political violence that has left no one untouched. These families are on their way to becoming a statistic, joining the estimated 1 million Salvadorans who live on the run, uprooted, exiled, scattered across Central America, Mexico, and increasingly the United States. The lucky ones may have relatives in the growing Salvadoran communities in cities like Los Angeles and Mexico City. However, if they try to go to the United States, they will have to enter illegally. If their luck runs out, they will be arrested and deported back to the terror they just left. Many come by bus to Mexico City, hoping to disappear into the urban sprawl. Some even come on foot if they have to. Over 100,000 Salvadorans have become squatters in the slums that fester on the outskirts of the city. They may have left the violence far behind, but even the youngest bring their terrors with them. Mariana fled to Mexico 2 years ago. She was afraid to be seen on camera, but she wanted to tell her story.
After raping me, they took a needle and pushed it into my eye over the mask they made me wear. On my hands I have scars from where they burned me with acid. They also burned me on other parts of my body.
Llegó él y se sacó su pañuelo y me limpió la sangre y
As these stories reach Americans, opposition is growing to the official policy that denies refugee status to people like Mariana.
All we are trying to do at this time is make our decision as to whether we as a congregation can do it. I understand.
In churches from Seattle to Madison to Washington, D.C., congregations are debating whether to take the step of breaking U.S. law by providing a sanctuary on church premises for Salvadoran refugees. For many, it is the first time they have ever faced a conflict between their religious beliefs and their country's laws.
I'm having real problems with making this decision now because I don't think we've had enough time as a congregation as a whole. This is the first meeting that we've had to discuss it among one another, and I don't think that this first meeting is the time to go ahead and make a decision.
What's going to happen to them while they're waiting for us to make up our minds? If they're in a situation of great urgency, then we don't have time to talk about it and think about it. We just act, and handle problems as they occur.
Noemi is 4 years old. To the United Nations, she is a refugee, unable to return to her country for fear of persecution. To the Immigration and Naturalization Service, she is about to become an illegal alien, only one of hundreds of thousands who, according to U.S. immigration authorities, come to the U.S. for economic rather than political reasons. Noemi's parents, whom we know only as Angel and Elisa, have been forced to flee El Salvador because of their political activities. Now they put their future and maybe their lives into the hands of this man, an American Quaker. He is their first conductor on the Underground Railroad and will guide them to the U.S.-Mexican border. He has made dozens of trips like this one with other families.
The problem you address, the status of the...
Meanwhile, in Madison, the debate continues.
If we as a congregation make the choice to provide sanctuary, we are violating Section 324 of the Section 8 of the U.S. Code, which is harboring aliens. And basically, it is a felony. We are liable, each of us, to $2,000 fine and up to 5 years in prison.
I, for one, am, well, I'm an officer in the Naval Reserve, and as such I've taken an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And so I am not able, in conscience, to engage in civil disobedience. And so I cannot participate.
I think there are moments when civil disobedience is what we are called to do. To me, this is a question of conscience, and it is also not at all a question. I have no choice whatsoever in this. I owe it to these people to take this risk. And if it means officially declaring to INS and everybody else that I'm doing it on purpose, and if I have to go to jail, I will go gladly.
Angel, Elisa, and Noemi have spent a month in Mexico City with relatives, also Salvadoran exiles. But it is uncertain how much longer the Mexican government will allow Salvadorans to wait out the war. So now they must try to reach family living in the United States. At 5 a.m., the family and their guide step out onto the deserted streets, headed for the U.S.-Mexican border. Their guides will be Mexican and American church people working with refugee aid agencies. They will attempt to smuggle them past the U.S. Border Patrol, which has arrested some 60,000 Salvadorans in the past 4 years. For Angel, Elisa, and Noemi, this will be the most dangerous stage of the journey.
I would hate to think that if we had had an opportunity to be a station in an underground railway, we would have let that opportunity go by.
Now the time has come to vote.
There were 7 who voted no, and there were 50 who voted yes. The resolution passes.
St. Francis House Episcopal Church thus becomes the first church in Madison, Wisconsin to declare itself a sanctuary, joining a network of over 60 other declared churches nationwide and 650 more who support them. On May 10th, at a carefully chosen time and place, Angel, Elisa, and Noemi approach the Mexican side of the Rio Grande.
Vayan hacia adelante, hacia adelante, hacia adelante.
On the American side of the river, a churchwoman waits nervously to take them away.
Here we come. Come on, Noemi. Jimmy, endereza a la niña. Pueden pararse ya. ¿Tomado algo?
Although they have evaded the Border Patrol at the river, many hazards still lie ahead on the long drive to Madison, Wisconsin, and the protection that awaits them at St. Francis House. The journey will take 5 long days, during which they must avoid roadblocks in the border area and stay on the move along a network of safe houses until they reach their final destination.
We drove at night, and we drove on roads that were not well traveled. And the reason for that being that we knew, for example, that migrant workers take certain routes beginning around this time of year. We wanted to avoid any routes where we felt there was going to be trouble. I can tell you that I breathed a lot easier when we crossed over to the Arkansas border.
Noemi, Noemi, 1, 1. 2.
Mamá es muda, claro.
She says good night.
Good night, mother.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Father, and she says good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, bueno.
I've never been in a movement like this. It's decentralized, it's disorganized, the communications are lousy. There's everything wrong with it in a certain sense, and yet there's something very optimistic about it. You know, some of us have visions of things changing in El Salvador. You know, that the war is going to end and that people will no longer have any reason to come. There's no reason for that optimism, but people are talking years now instead of months.
On May 23rd, Reverend Tom Woodward came to the safe house to take Noemi, Elisa, and Angel to St. Francis House.
University.
Several weeks after leaving El Salvador, the Underground Railroad delivers its passengers to the end of the line, a room in the attic of a Wisconsin church. That same evening, there was standing room only at the public welcoming ceremony. Wearing masks to preserve their anonymity and to protect families left behind, the refugees are formally welcomed into the protection of the church. Also present are the pastors of 5 other Madison congregations, whose members have voted to publicly endorse and support the action of St. Francis House, legally becoming co-violators of the law. Now, for the first time, the congregation will hear the family's story.
Estamos viendo mucho tiempo, está bien. Estoy nervioso. Yo también estoy.
Mi nombre es Ángel.
My name is Angel.
Mi viaje ha sido por la situación que tiene El Salvador.
I have made my journey because of the situation in El Salvador.
Pues ahora
Angel tells them that late one night the police surrounded his house. They came in, beat him and Elisa, then took them to a jail where they were interrogated and tortured. After a few weeks, Elisa was released. 9 months later, after paying a heavy bribe, Angel was freed and told to leave the country within 24 hours. Angel thanks the congregation for giving him a safe place and a chance to tell their story.
Gracias a Dios estamos bien y al mismo tiempo damos gracias a Dios y a las personas que nos ayudaron a llegar hasta esta ciudad.
Thank God we are all well, and we thank God too for the people who helped us reach this city and a sanctuary from which we can speak freely and tell the truth to the American people about what's happening in our country.
Mi hija pasó horas y horas sin poder hablar. Luego, cuando ella volvió a la realidad, solo lloraba. Pues ella solo llamaba a sus padres. Era lo único que ella quería.
Now I would like to tell you about my little daughter. She suffered greatly when she saw me taken prisoner and saw how they beat me. For hours and hours she couldn't speak, and later when she returned to reality, she could only cry and call for me. All she wanted was her mother and father.
Y yo le pido al pueblo americano, y en particular a las personas de esta iglesia, su apoyo, y que puedan andar libremente en los Estados Unidos, ya que en su propia tierra no pueden andar libres.
I want to ask the American people, and especially you who are here, to support solidarity work and refugee work for Salvadorans and all Central American people, so they can be free.
I'll show people what this is.
Well, you may like to know that since that American film was made, Angel, Elisa and Naomi eventually reached sanctuary with relatives near New York, where they're now living. The authorities, though, in the United States are keeping up the pressure on the sanctuary movement in the hope that the Underground Railroad out of El Salvador can be destroyed. With that, we end this edition of First Tuesday. We'll be back in the first Tuesday of July. Hope you'll join us then. Good night.